is the energy that Cam's brought, that seems palpable, but the first year without the union of Brady and Belichick right now, is there incredible optimism amongst Pats fans? Where's the Patriot fan right now a week before the season?
They're in denial. They're in denial right now.
Okay.
There is a lot of in Bill we trust. There's a lot of Belichick will figure it out. There's a lot of, hey, they still got that great defense. And I think there is a great denial, Brandon and Tiki, that what happened at the end of last year when they finished 4-5 down the stretch and got steamrolled in the playoffs didn't actually happen to them. And it did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One thing, you know what jumped out to me, Ty, and one of those losses, by the way, was to Miami, as we know. Maybe it wasn't effusive praise, but Belichick was blabbering, and I say that in a friendly, fun way. Put quotes around that, but just blabbering incessantly about Cam Newton when for 20 years he basically treated Brady like a transient backup. That can't be by accident here. Does it strike you the difference in is there a difference in Belichick? I guess is what I'm asking. Does he seem to be going about his business a little different this year or no?
Just as it reflects upon the quarterback position, I think it does. What Bill is big for, and I'm sure Tiki experienced this throughout his career, I think we all have with different bosses, is if you're on a high, Bill wants to take you down a peg so that you stay hungry. But if you have any at all trepidation about how you might do someplace, he is big with giving you the boost of, you're fine, you're doing all right, you're doing great, we like what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. Everything, there's a method to everything that comes out of his mouth. And when Tom Brady was getting the job, and Belichick was saying, as you've probably seen on NFL Network at some point, I can't stand it, Brady, run it again. That was a Brady who would respond to that.
Yeah.
Eventually, after 20 years of it, he wasn't that psyched about hearing it, but I don't think you could start off with Cam in that tone. Maybe he can after week 10, but not now.
Yeah. Tom, we hear that there's a quarterback competition. They're not willing to determine or at least tell us who the starting quarterback is going to be. Can you see it being anyone other than Cam Newton? I know Jarrett Stidham did well and he's well thought of there last season, but this is Cam Newton's job, correct?
Yep. It took probably about 3 or 4 days to come clear. And they did go into camp intending to have a competition. There's no lie to that. And I'm sure that Tiki, there were plenty of times when you were playing for Tom Coughlin or anybody, they said, it's a competition. I'm not naming the starter in July or August. But you expected that you would be the starter because you had a skill level. And Cam had a skill level. They opened it up. Stidham hurt his hip after about 4 days, and then all the reps went to Cam. So if Cam isn't the starter, this is legendary coaching malpractice because Cam's getting way too many reps for a guy who's backing off him.
We are talking to Tom Curran, getting a little sense of what the Pats might be this year, despite the denial up in New England there. Pats reporter, NBC Sports Boston. Sonny Michel understood. Leonard Fournette, to me, is a guy, and I'm not even a huge Fournette fan, but on a 1 year motivational, kind of prove it to sustain your career and make some money down the road type of deal with the Pats. It just seems like one of those fits that could work. Any interest? Are they going to pursue Fournette?
You can make the argument either way. You can look at it, and the entire NFL has kind of, the positionless defense somewhat on the back seven. And you bring in a battering ram like Fournette, and you can exploit teams. And the Patriots don't have the battering ram back on their roster right now. I just don't think Fournette is as good as their previous battering ram, LeGarrette Blount. I think Fournette is a big, plodding back who is easily controlled by teams that commit to them. And the Patriots took him out of the game in the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago. Belichick has always done well against these bigger, plodding backs. I just don't see him as being a great fit. Plus, I don't think Tom Coughlin's going to give him an awesome reference coming out of Jacksonville if Belichick starts calling around on him.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. And you need that for Bill Belichick to take you lightly. Even from back in the Corey Dillon days, someone gave him a good reference, and obviously it worked out for him. You mentioned, Tom, earlier, this defense, which in some ways did it with smoke and mirrors, especially early on. They led the league in points, 14, I think it was, per game. But there's been opt-outs with Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung and Kyle Van Noy left. It's different. We know it's variable. Then they're smart. I put that in quotes. They're smart on defense, and they do so many different things. But what can we expect? Is it going to be the same that we saw last year, dominance, or is there a little bit of fool's gold there when you talk about this Pats defense?
Bill Parcells, that famous quote, "You are what your record says you are," and that's terrific. And we all understand what he's saying. You can't get around what it is. It's not necessarily true with the 2019 Patriots. They went 12-4, but the collection of quarterbacks they saw, whether it was Josh Rosen, and I'm not sure if it was Fitzpatrick in the opener, but with Miami, and then they saw Luke Falk, and then they saw, just a collection of really bad quarterbacks.
Yeah, they did.
And they got to 8-0 against a collection of really bad quarterbacks, and they did it with a lot of special teams work and a lot of defense with institutional knowledge that overwhelmed them. That institutional knowledge doesn't return. They lost their entire linebacker room. That was the heartbeat of the defense. Hightower, Van Noy, Collins, Landon Roberts. Now they have rookies coming back, so there's no institutional knowledge there. Chung and McCourty are terrific corners, and Gilmore and Jason McCourty and J.C. Jackson are talented, but you're going to mix in a second-round rookie and Kyle Duggar. You're going to mix in Josh Uche and Anthony Jennings at the linebacker position. They don't have a great pass rush from the edges. John Simon's a good player, but not going to set the world on fire. And then Chase Winovich is more of a situational guy, so it's not going to be the same results, I don't think, defensively that you saw, because they're actually fighting up a class in terms of who they're going to deal with this year, as you guys know, going around the league and doing this training camp preview.
Yeah, they have a very tough schedule for the first time in a long time. The division is somewhat interesting. If I say they're an 8-8 team, do you resist that? Do you go up? Do you go down? 8-8. Which way are you going off that?
I think that's a perfect spot to start. Perfect spot to start. And it'll depend upon how this is going to be one of those teams that has to improve as the year goes on. They might look really ugly early. They might be able to outsmart teams early. What I think is interesting about what the Patriots training camp is about right now is conditioning, because Belichick probably looks at it and goes, all right, all these other teams are going to worry about install. They're going to worry about this. They're going to worry about that. We're going to have to be very well conditioned, because no preseason games, no joint practices, minimal off-season work. We can wear teams out in the fourth quarter. But I still think they're going to be overmatched offensively and defensively for a little bit until they get the light goes on. But they could win some close ones early before they figure it out.
All right, 8-8 sounds about right. The Bills I think, are going to be better. BT does as well.
Oh, yeah.
But there's still hope up there, I'm sure, that this will be the 12th consecutive season that the Pats win the division. Tell us we're wrong or right.
Wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. There's just too much talent elsewhere, and there is a point at which, as brilliant as Bill Belichick is, the chickens do come home to roost as to who is on the roster. And it tried to come home to roost last year with Brady. He knew it. He said everything he could about the condition of the skill position players, and people said, 12-4. Well, it's just not good enough, and it's going to come home to roost this year.
Tom Curran covers the Pats, NBC Sports Boston. God, do I hope that you're right. Good stuff, Tom.
you evil son of a gun.
He's a Jets fan, Tom. He can't help himself.
No, it's been evil.
I know, can't help him.
What you've subjected me to for 20 years is evil. That's evil. This is called retribution. This is payback, I hope. Although I'm not so sure it's going to be my team that's going to be administering the payback. Tom, look forward to a fun year. Thanks a lot, pal. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Take care, Tom.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.